Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Studio 416. Got my co-host Cameron Ford here with me, and we have the dangerous Bob Littell is our guest
in the house
today.
That's
in
right.
the house, he's here, and Bob, let's just get this started with for people who don't know you intimately. How did you get started? Where did you come from?
Well,
What's your story?
I'm born and raised in Palo Alto. Went to Palo Alto High. I was a very serious athlete in high school and in college.
What sport?
Basketball. Palo Alto High School was the number 3 ranked basketball team in the state my senior year. And I was player of the year over Charles Johnson, who was the starting guard on the Warriors when they won the world championship. But that's neither here nor there.
Side note.
But I had a mentality. You know, I was a 5'9" white guy in the wrong sport, and so I had a determination, a mentality. But I hurt my knee my senior year in college, and pretty much physically that ended that career. But my best friend in elementary school and high school was a musician, and he played harmonica. And my father and my older brother were classical pianists. So I had this stream kind of flowing through me. But I was a guitar player to start with, but then I played harp, and but then it dawned on me that guitar players were a dime a dozen. So I put the guitar away and focused on the harp, and that's really opened a lot of doors for me in my life. A funny little instrument like that.
Yeah.
And then came to Chico, through Chico for the first time, touring with a band out of the Bay Area, and this is like 1970. And I'd never been to Chico, and it was when I get off the bus, played at the Drop-In Club, which it was the new Drop-In, it's now Sal's now, but it was the Drop-In Club back then. And we played in an August night, place of standing room only. Things were gentler in the 70s in Chico. There was probably 150 people out on the street and the sidewalk and stuff when the bar closed at 2 o'clock, and someone said, "Let's go swimming."
Yeah.
Because it was an August night.
1 mile, right?
And about 85 people headed to 1 mile. And here's we're band members, and we're going, and so we get there, and everybody takes their clothes off and goes swimming. And the band guys and I are laying on the grass going, "We could live here." and within a year I had moved here, and was playing in my first band in the first 3 months after I got here. So
Just so people know, we're actually at the Secret Trail Brewery, and so if you hear a little stuff in the background, that's just the local ambience.
Yeah, that's the ambience of
it's not the studio audience.
No.
Okay.
We are in the back room of a brewery next to the tap room.
Brewery. What was your first band in Chico?
The Fat City Ramblers.
Yeah, who was in it?
Dave Hauser of Hauser Music in Orville, who died of cancer 3 years ago now. What locals? Locals that people now would not know.
Yeah.
John Hanson was a guitar player, great guitar player. He plays out of Seattle now. Dennis Edwards was on drums. He toured nationally still doing it with big time bands playing all over the world. Rob Wright on bass. God, I remember these names, and I can't remember my kids' names.
Good work.
So it was a very talented band, great musicianship. And we played, like in this town, we played like every Thursday and Friday and Saturday, month after month after month, because there was like 20 places to play music back in the 70s. And everybody knew everybody. It was really a wonderful circle. Not unlike it's getting to be right now. There's really a nice young musical community in this town of players that all know each other, and when they can, they play together.
Yeah.
And they're fans of each other, and they're all nice people. And it's that in that respect, it's kind of similar to what the early 70s were like here in this town.
Did you play with George Souza?
Yeah, I've played like every longtime Chico musician. I can't count the number of bands that I've played in. But I started playing with George in 1975, and we still play. You know, and George lives in Nevada City now, and so he plays there, and I travel there periodically to go sit in with him and do our duet, because we did a duet for many years also. But George is a wonderful player, and that was a good band. Larry Peterson on guitar, George.
Heck.
Both guitar players were 5'4", and so we would introduce them as the twin giants of lead guitar.
Nice, Twin Towers, yeah.
So I've had the good fortune of being blessed to be able to play with some really good players.
Yeah. Let's back up just a little bit. I'm curious to know about technically, or why did you choose a harmonica? You may have covered that, but technically, how did you teach yourself to play, or did you take lessons, or what?
Let me tell you, they didn't have the internet in the 70s, or I started in the 60s. What happened was, I was not into music at all. There was music all around the house, but I was a jock. I was a 365-day-a-year basketball player. Mm-hmm. Keys to the gym, free throws on Christmas morning.
Yeah.
I mean, that type of mentality. And but I was starting to get, my buddy played in bands in Palo Alto, and so the music community was pretty strong in Palo Alto since the Grateful Dead was just forming, and that was all out of Palo Alto. I went to high school with a bunch of those guys, and I saw a poster for this band, and they were playing. Stanford University is directly across the street. I mean, directly across the street from Palo Alto High School, and they were playing in the gym in Stanford, and it was an interesting-looking band. I didn't focus on the style of music, but it had both blacks and whites in it, and that was something you just didn't see. I mean, for younger people, they don't understand. When I was in high school, there was segregation. Mm-hmm. You know, it seems like it should have been 150 years ago, but it's not.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I remember when the first black children were trying to get to school in Mississippi.
Yeah.
I mean, that was in my high school years, and so. But it was a mixture, so I went by myself. I paid my tickets, went over there, and it just turned out to be the Paul Butterfield Band. Mm. And at the time, listening to music back then, it was pre-Fillmore type stuff. This was 64, 65. And you're listening to Patti Page, and I mean, very vacillating kind of seaweed music. And, and then I went and saw Butterfield. And they just came out, they just came out and bitch slapped you. I mean, hardcore Chicago blues.
Right.
Michael Bloomfield and Elvin Bishop on guitar.
Yeah.
And Butter just blowing his brains out. And then he had, not Muddy Waters. Okay, I'm not going to remember the name, but he had a famous black rhythm section of bass and drums. And so that bottom end, you know, and I'd never heard anything like that. Basically, my life was different the next day.
Yeah.
And I went out and bought a harmonica. And in those days, there was no books. There was no instruction books. There was no videos. There was no YouTube. There was no nothing. And there was no teachers.
Right.
And so everything you learned at such a reduced pace.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a long time before I realized that you didn't use one harp for every song.
Right.
I didn't realize keys. I didn't have that background. And if you wanted to learn a riff, everybody back then had a Victrola with a 33 and a third and a 78 and a 16 speed on it. And you had to put the album on and then put the needle on and play 4 notes and lift it up. And then I had to try to figure out where they were on the harmonica. Wow. So I might sit, and I really did this, because most serious musicians have that period of their life, so I would sit for 8 hours. Pick it up, put it back, write it down, 2 draw, 3 draw, 4 blow.
Wow.
And then take another 2 minutes to find out where you left off. It didn't just start again. You had to find the spot on the record. And so do. And that's just to learn one lick.
Yeah.
And then I didn't realize you could bend notes.
Yeah.
Again, there was no one to tell you. Number 3 draw has 4 notes on it. On just the number 3 hole draw, there's 4 separate notes.
Yeah.
So not only do you have to learn to hit them, but you have to be able to go to them and and then go down to it. You have to have your mouth in a position to where you're locked in, and then you hit that hole. And just those things. I played a lot though. I mean, show me a great guitar player, and I'll show you a kid who spent a lot of time in his room, sitting on the bed with the door closed.
Yeah.
By himself.
Time on task.
I mean, you got to do it. Every great player does it.
Yeah.
People say, "Well, you're a natural." You know, I played for 20 years. I don't sound anything like you.
Yeah.
I practice more than you do. That's it.
Yeah.
I practice more than you. You know, I have some innate talent, because there's to make it to hear what you want to hear. It takes a skill, but it was a long process, and now I've been playing for 50 plus years, so it's kind of cool. I've got good things in my memory banks from playing that justify all the time spent playing that stupid little 10-hole instrument.
Yeah, I'm very interested in you, Bob, as a musician, of course, because I'm the marketing and events manager here at Secret Trail Brewing. We've had you at the patio about 3 or 4 times. I can't even remember now. You're a regular on our stage
I'm
for sure.
back.
Yeah, you're back.
I'm coming back. Yeah.
And you're coming back to play with Peter Wilson on December 5th. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you then. But I'm also really excited to have you on the show today because you booked the Sierra Nevada Big Room for how long did you book that room?
21 years.
When did they hire you on?
I actually got hired in 1997.
Okay.
I was also, and so many people don't even realize this, they think I had this really cush job of putting on all the shows at Sierra Nevada. I was the general manager of the restaurant.
Oh, okay.
I had 160 employees.
So that's how they hired you on.
I worked
actually
60 hours a week in the restaurant. The music was on the side.
Yeah.
When Ken hired me, he had this vision in his head because the expansion didn't take place and the big room didn't get built until 2000. Mm-hmm. And so there was that 3-year stretch. The pub had a history of presenting some music in the little corner.
In the tap room,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And so I kind of took that over.
Okay.
And then they built the big room, but there was really no discussion of time frames or anything like that. The funny thing is, and Ken, if you're listening, I never had a sit-down conversation with Ken to where Ken said, okay, Bob, the big room's yours. Do it what you will.
It was just implied.
I just did it.
Yeah.
If you want, and there's a lesson in business there.
Yeah.
I booked the first show. I let Ken know who it was. I showed him the poster.
Yep.
I did the tickets. I did we had, luckily again, we had in-house tickets. We had in-house posters. Mm-hmm. Our posters were beautiful. Our tickets were collector's items.
Right.
I have a mess of them.
Yeah.
You do?
I mean, they were full color
Yeah.
with a picture of the band.
Yeah.
I mean, they were beautiful. The best tickets you'll ever see.
Yeah. I probably have 50 or 60, maybe more.
I've got a few.
Yeah.
And so I started because we had a company party before the room was even done, and then the room was sort of done. We remodeled the room about 4 or 5 times after it actually opened because we realized there were problems.
Yeah.
But the first band I ever booked was Peter Green, the legend, the original Fleetwood Mac. Peter Green. Fleetwood Mac in the 60s was a very, very hardcore, loud blues band.
Okay.
No women. It was Peter Green on guitar, and Peter Green played with John Mayall after Clapton.
Okay.
I mean, he was one of the 3 or 4, Jeff Beck, he was one of the 3 or 4 great guitar players.
Wow.
But he suffered a bad mental breakdown due to drugs. So he was touring, he was nowhere near the tour draw.
Yeah.
And I got them the first time, and it was basically 8 really great musicians and Peter Green, and they kind of walked him to the center of the stage and then crossed their fingers.
Yeah.
But it was a good show, and then I didn't put another show on for like 4 or 5 months because there was no one telling me to do it.
Yeah.
It was just sitting there, and they were using the room for other things. And the sound system was in, the green room was in, and so I just started booking it. It's funny looking at my old contracts because they're handwritten, typed letters.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the circuit. I was not educated as to the quality of roots Americana music or really good bluegrass music. Because it wasn't on the radio.
Right.
But I learned very quickly what I did, and when something you might think about. I had a list on my computer of about 35 venues that were the same size as mine.
Same size. Okay.
Same size.
Yeah.
So facing the same challenge of how to pay a good band and yet generate the revenue on ticket sales without charging $100 a ticket.
Right.
And so, and these were mostly East Coast places.
Oh, really?
Very famous places, but they're 300 or less.
Yeah.
And I started to go to school and to see who they booked and who they rebooked and what shows sold out.
Yeah.
You go to those websites, you see what's sold out, then you go and you find that talent.
Yeah.
Can you hear it in the big room? You know, that was my question whenever I heard a band. Can I see them and can I hear them playing in the big room?
Interesting.
That was the first question. Second question was, can I sell it? Because it didn't matter how good the band was if I couldn't sell it.
Right.
Period. I had people all the time say, well, I saw this band in Kentucky in this bar. They killed the place. Well, it must have been 70 people there.
Yeah, okay.
No cover.
Yeah, well.
All right, I'm going to have to interrupt. We're going to take a little break and do some underwriters, and we'll be right back with Bob Littell and Cameron Ford. Dan Carter, your host, right here on Studio 416 on FM 90.1 KZFR Chico, KZFR.org. We're back. You've got it on Studio 416, Dan Carter, Cameron Ford, and we're having a great conversation with Bob Littell. Bob, you were talking about the early days of booking the big room.
Yeah, it had a reputation that had to be broken in my mind, because the pub basically brought in just blues. Just blues. Good blues. Roy Rogers, Norton Buffalo. I mean, a wonderful level for that little room. But, no folk, no bluegrass, no country, no nothing. And so as soon as I started having music in the big room, people mentally assumed that it was just going to be a blues house. And I brought blues in, and the best I could, but I also really started to get, as a musician, really into playing bluegrass myself as a musician. And so I started, and once you get on that path of bluegrass, A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D. You discover this musician, and he plays with this guy, and he plays with Sam Bush, and he plays with Daryl Scott, and he plays with Tim O'Brien, and on this line of people I didn't really know much about. But I developed a like, and my rule was to book it, I had to like them.
Yeah.
A lot of times you book a band because it's an easy sell.
Yeah.
And you'll understand this.
Yeah.
After a while, you look for easy sells periodically.
Well, of course, yeah.
So you don't have to do anything except announce the thing, sell it out, and wait for the show date.
Right.
But I started bringing in people, and they introduced me to other people. And what I decided I was going to do, and from a booking philosophy, was I was going to try to hire the best possible musicians I could find. They had to earn their right musically to play that stage. No beginners. And basically what it turned out that I booked for the serious musical lovers in town and musicians, because the musicians knew these people. And every good acoustic show I did, I would say if a bomb went off in this place, every musician in town would die.
The whole scene would be wiped out.
And that's how my reputation started, as a room for musicians to come and see other musicians, because the acoustics were perfect. The sound was, we made people sound as good as they could.
Right.
No better, but as good as they could.
Good as they could.
And gave it an environment where the customer base was pleasant and relaxed.
Right.
And they came for the music.
Right.
Period. They didn't come to drink.
Yeah.
In over 1,400 shows in a bar that serves music or serves alcohol, I didn't break up one fight.
Really?
Not
Holy
one fight
mackerel.
in 1,400 shows. Now, I escorted a few people out for various reasons, but I'm good at what I do, and I could get them quietly, and we were walking together. We're walking. And
now wait a minute. How do you get the nickname Dangerous Bob Littell when you don't break up fights?
It's actually, you can hear it be used on YouTube on a song that actually right now I think has 2,600,000 hits.
Oh, far out.
And it's me doing duets with Tommy Emmanuel.
Oh, yeah.
And Tommy gave me that name.
Tommy did. Okay. Yeah.
And it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, here's Dangerous Bob Littell and his dangerous harp.
Dangerous Bob Littell.
And
that's great.
And so I'll keep that nickname because Tommy gave it to it, and
Sure.
he quite possibly is the greatest acoustic guitar player on the planet.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And if he wants to play with you, then that's a good sign.
Yeah.
And so that's where I got the name Dangerous Bob Littell, though I've never been accused of being dangerous in any other outside activity.
Let's play your song, boy. 9-pound hammer, it's a little too heavy for my size. Well, buddy, for my size. Well, I'm going on the mountain, gonna see my baby, and I ain't coming back. No, I ain't coming back. Roll on, buddy, don't you roll so slow. Well, tell me, how can I pull when the wheels won't go? Roll on, buddy, a time. Tell me how can I pull, and I can't make mine. Yeah, Bobby. It's a long way to Holland, Bob. It's a long way to Hazard, but just to get a little brew, but just to get a little brew here. But when I'm long gone, you can make my tombstone out of number 9 coal, out of number 9 coal. Roll on, Betty, don't you roll so slow. Well, tell me how can I pull when the wheels won't go? Roll on, Betty, and make your time. Well, it done broke down, and I can't make mine. Doom da 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 doom da da. Could make my tombstone out of number 9 coal, out of number 9 coal. With that 9-pound hammer, well, it killed John Henry. Ain't gonna kill me, baby. No, it won't kill me. So roll on, Betty, don't you roll so slow. Well, tell me how can I pull when the wheels won't go? Roll on, Betty, and make your time. I done broke down, and I can't make mine. Let's take it. Yeah.
But what happened, the reputation for the room between musicians, my first couple of years, I just couldn't, I had to beg people to come. They never heard of us. And it wasn't known as a venue. And then I started to get good people, and they talked to other people. And then the reputation went around, and all of a sudden what happened is the managers were calling me.
Yeah.
And they would call me with I have them passing by on Monday, October 20th. Mm-hmm. Can you do it?
Yeah.
Not the 19th
or
the 21st.
It has to be the 20th.
Their trip is due, and if they can make a stop on, because that's a Monday and they're traveling, and if they don't play my place, they have to pay for room and board, they have to pay for their meal, all that sort of stuff, and make no money, so they lose money.
Right.
And I started, and that's when I learned I had to book way in advance. I had to book while these bands were planning their tours, not while they were on tour.
Right.
Because if you're a good band, every day is spoken for.
Right.
And some are travel days.
Yeah.
And so, if they have to, I got bands all the time. Played till midnight in Portland
Yeah.
on Saturday. Sound check at Sierra Nevada at 3 on
Ooh,
Sunday.
That's a brutal drive.
Or they played
yeah.
Eureka, or and going, what's the quickest way? And I'm saying, there's no quick way.
You almost can't get there from here.
Yeah, there's no. Don't rush. Just relax.
Yeah.
Because there's no quick way, and so now that Reading is having quality music,
Right.
But you're going to be realizing they're in a 1,000-seat theater.
Yeah, you took a look at our new space. It's only 50 people.
Yeah,
So.
With 1,000 seats, you can. That's why we're going to see Bela Fleck there. So that one of the, as I said, it built up a national reputation for 300 seats rooms, because I'm not sure that you could have gotten any higher level of talent. Because if that room was located in downtown Chico, I couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
My tickets were free, my posters were free, the kitchen made the food, the servers were employed. Everything was underwritten, and I knew that. I every day, when I shaved in the morning, when I'd shave, I would thank Ken Grossman.
Yeah.
Because he allowed me in that environment with no supervision. In fact, Ken, to show you the kind of owner he was, and if he wanted to come and see a show, he would get a hold of me and say, Bob, are there any tickets left? He wouldn't say, save my table.
Save it, yeah. Okay.
Are there any tickets left? And if it was truly a sold-out show, he would come and stand on the rail on the side
And
for
check
an
out.
hour and watch and just experience the whole thing. Because when you saw the room in action, it was the vision that Ken and I had when it was just a concrete square.
Yeah.
Imagine and we said, well, God, maybe we could do a PBS show out of this room.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we did.
Yeah. What was
Yeah.
the PBS show?
Sierra Center Stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ran for, it's still running in places.
We technically only did one season,
Yeah.
Okay.
but it
we
was
did
like 14 shows.
14
Wow.
shows, and it was on in
Yeah,
Nashville,
produced
Washington,
by Peter
D.C.
Burko.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Right
and
on.
Peter and I went to Florida to the PBS convention, and had a suite, all Sierra Nevada,
Cool.
and had TVs, and we had made videos of other things that we've done, and I hired Marcia Ball to just play piano in our suite. We thought it might be interesting, and so Peter and I got together, and and Ken had said, well, if there's something like this, who do you think you'd want to hire? And I'd like to bring Robin Ford in. And so we got the whole thing. We had to rent the cameras. We had to rent the booms, because this was almost a 6 camera shoot.
6 or 7
Because we had the two
Wow.
booms. These are 20-foot, one on.
You got all that into the big room?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, and
It was epic.
and
That's amazing.
Handheld cameras and on stage and back. So it was a pretty good production, and the show was a little different than it was sort of like Austin City Limits, but I thought this show was more personable because we interviewed the performers during the show. So they did 2 cuts and that would break to an interview with questions, things like that.
Yeah.
So it was really kind of nice, and we had 13 shows, and Tommy Emmanuel was our 3rd or 4th show.
Yeah.
And it was because of that show, because he still didn't have much of a reputation. I saw Tommy Emmanuel for the first time in a Kansas wheat field at a music festival, and that was in 2000. And so I first one to bring him to the West Coast, brought him to Chico. In fact, it was 9 days after 9/11. And so we weren't even sure if the show was going to go on, because he was in England, and it was no flights.
Yeah.
But he did get here, and that one show, because it showed all over the U.S.
Yeah.
Tommy credits every time I see Tommy, or I still get to play with him periodically.
Cool.
But he credits me with launching him on the national level
Oh, it was through that show. Huh?
through that show.
Wow.
Because that opened up. Because if you ever see that show, it's mind-boggling.
I need to remind our audience that they're listening to Studio 416 on FM 90.1 KZFR Chico, KZFR.org. We've got Bob Littell and Cameron Ford, and maybe I'll forget my name now.
I lead by example. We did a TV show. We had 13. I was the host. I welcomed to the thing and to talk a little about the band. You know, I didn't have the jacket with the arm patch or anything, but it was a good experience. But what happened is the marketing department got involved because we were going to have to go to high def because PBS was going total high def. And the difference between a high def camera and a regular camera was
in those days
Was
astronomical.
Really?
Yeah.
And to have 7 of them.
Wow.
And then marketing goes, well, God, we spend all this money and you can't gauge return.
Yeah.
Is a guy in Iowa who watches this show and then picks up the guitar going to go buy Sierra Nevada beer the next day?
Yeah.
You can't tell.
Yeah.
And so what are you getting for that money that it costs you to put on the show? Because I won't give dollar amount, but it costs a lot of money. And they say, well, if we did other types of advertising, we can track the results.
Yeah.
And so that one year, but the shows are still playing. PBS can play them anytime they want. We had Say So for like 3 years or something like that. And I get emails from people from Kentucky or Kansas or something saying, we saw your show last night.
Cool.
Da-da-da. And they track me down. So it's still getting play. And historically, I think the thing that's going to hold that room in forever high esteem is the level of talent that played that room.
Yeah.
And I could go down here. People, again, how you find... I was a late comer to Jackie Green.
Yeah.
And the way I found him had nothing to do with this area. I was looking at shows on back east at this very famous club, and they had their coming shows for 3 months, and they did like 5 shows a week. It was 3 months of shows, and 2.5 months down, and there was Jackie Green sold out. And out of 50 shows, that was the only show that was sold out.
Was
So
the Sierra Nevada Big Room show? Or
No, that was,
or was this
a
an
show
East-
back.
oh,
this was
this
before I
East
had ever
Coast.
even hired Jackie
Yeah,
Green.
you were just curious about
And that's-
who was selling out these East Coast venues.
How could he sell all
Yeah.
there to do? And so I looked into him. And when
Yeah.
I started having him, he was young. He was 19
Yeah.
or 20. And his mom, who lives in Sacramento, would come to the show.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's
That's
funny. I
fun.
mean, when I had the Avid brothers,
Yeah.
their dad came to the show.
Oh, is
and
their
I was the
dad
first
from
one-
California or something?
They're
or-
North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and Dad was touring with them.
Oh, you came with him. Okay.
And then when I had Nickel Creek, they were all 16, 17-year-old. Their dad came to the show.
That's a big family event over there.
Well, the key to get a lot of the level of talent that I did, I had to get them early.
Yeah.
And I mean really early.
Yeah, that's good advice because we're going to be launching this new 50-person like listener space next year in 2022. And I'm trying to bring in as many out-of-town acts as I possibly can, but the challenge there is, putting on shows that are going to make sense financially for the band and also culturally with the brewery and Chico just as a whole. So I'm just starting out at this position where I'm promoting concerts at Secret Trail Brewing Company. We have a much smaller space compared to the big room. It's 50 people who can fit into this new event space that we have next door. We have an open mic on Wednesdays that we cultivate local talent, and they can move to the Sunday shows that we usually do, but this new space is going to offer some new opportunities for local and traveling musicians. You've seen the space. I'm wondering if you have any advice for me on how to make it successful.
What I would do, first of all, is go looking for other 50-seat rooms.
50-seat rooms. Yeah.
Are there really small ones in San Francisco that maybe cater to a you need to find a few of those.
Yeah.
Because what you don't want to do is just bring in locals.
Yeah.
Because after a few times, you're not going to draw.
Right.
Find people who are facing the same challenges you are. Who are their best performers? Who are the ones that because they'll talk to you. Because they've become friends of the musicians and they're doing the musicians a favor by recommending them.
Yeah.
But 50 is pretty small.
Yeah.
And again, you'll have sit-down shows if it's an acoustic show. Because sit-down encourages people to be quiet.
Yeah.
When they're standing and milling, they're now turning around and talking to the person back behind them and stuff.
Yeah.
I would come out on an acoustic show. And I'd come out to do my intro.
Yeah.
And fortunately, a packed house.
Yeah.
And so the lights come down, da-da-da. And I'd start to talk. And then I would say, now, the important thing to realize is this is an acoustic show. And so I would start to move my mic away from my mouth.
Oh.
And I would say, then I'd continue to talk. So if you can't hear me talking now,
Whoa.
you're making too much noise.
What an interesting move. Maybe I'll pull that move when
there's people that do it now.
Yeah.
And then I would say, if you have a conversation, if you need to go talk on the phone, take it out to the mezzanine.
Yeah, take it out there.
Your fellow audience will appreciate it. The band members will appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then I would come up and I would finish. But 99% of the time after I'd use that approach, I would get applause.
Right.
Because everybody wants a quiet show.
Right.
It takes one table
Yeah.
to ruin the ambiance for everybody.
Right.
And those are the only times when I had to get involved.
Right.
If it was to the point where it was irritating me.
Yeah.
But
That's where
luckily,
Bob Littell became dangerous Bob
well,
Littell.
it's funny because instead of having a crew member ask him to quiet down, because if they're drinking, they're going to feel superior.
Sure.
When they saw me coming,
They're like, oh, that guy runs the
they
show.
knew. Yeah. They knew why I was there.
Yeah.
And literally, all I had to do was say, "You understand why I'm here, right?
Yep.
So, come on."
And they'll say, we'll quiet down.
Come on. And there are a couple of people that were drunk and rowdy that I have to say, come on, I need to talk to you outside.
Right.
And I'd take them out in the mezzanine and keep going and take them down the stairs and tell the security guard, don't let them come back upstairs.
Okay. There you go.
But that didn't happen often. But it was, if you want people to be quiet, ask them to be quiet.
Right.
Don't be afraid. It's your house.
Yeah.
And you're fighting for the band.
Right.
Because there's nothing worse. I mean, right, like was it Saturday night that AJ was here?
Yeah, AJ Lee and Blue Summit was here Saturday night.
Yeah, Susie and I came to that. As soon as I saw that they were playing, because I know those guys, and I've played on 3 or 4 bills with them.
Oh, cool.
On the same bill.
Yeah, they're good.
And so, and the lead guitar player, the real lead guitar player, is Molly Tuttle's brother.
Oh, wow.
Molly Tuttle was the first woman. She was from Sacramento. She's in her 20s now, maybe close to 30. But she won the the International Bluegrass Music Association Guitar Player of the Year last year.
Cool.
First female ever to win it.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
And she's a picker.
Yeah.
And this is her brother. And he's good, too. Let me give you another clue.
Sure.
One of the reasons I had 300 seats and I had a mailing list that went out every week with over 8,000 names on it.
Yeah.
For 300 seats.
Mailing list is crucial.
So you want to start it right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
In fact,
we've got one. It's 400 strong now.
Yeah, but really make sure that it's music specific.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Have them put their name, their phone number, type of music they enjoy.
Oh, cool.
Because if they're putting Metallica, it doesn't do any good to send them a flyer for whomever. You want to identify your repeat clientele.
Sure.
Who become regulars to the type of shows you want them to come to.
Yep.
Because they want to hear that they're coming for the music. Period.
Right.
Yeah, you can have a beer. Yeah, you can have do. But shut up and listen. I had 300 seats. My goal, I wanted to sell every show out.
Right.
And I had periods when I had a board up in the mezzanine with upcoming events.
Yeah.
And I would have 5 posters of upcoming shows, and everyone was sold out.
Yeah.
All 5. My room was called the Big Room, and it was basically the smallest main. Chico State had 1,200, Paradise had 800, and here's 300 calling themselves the Big Room.
The Big Room, yeah.
We couldn't come up with a name.
That's
so
right.
How many inputs does your
We've
system?
got 18.
18?
Yep.
Okay. So is that counting monitors?
Yeah, we've got 6 monitor mixes.
Okay.
So auxiliary inputs.
And
For the recording arts geeks out there, we have a Behringer X-Air XR18 with 6 auxiliary mixes and 18 inputs XLR.
Yeah. It's good. The biggest thing you can do for your room is to ensure good sound for your listening audience and for your musicians.
You have good advice. You mentioned this earlier. I don't know if it was even during while we were recording, but you said maybe you should do a few shows for just like some really close friends of the brewery.
No,
I was like, that's a good idea because I run sound for all the shows.
I think you should invite Bob.
Yeah, maybe you should come and chill and say, hey, you need to pull this down, pull that up. That'd be a good idea.
It's
actually.
it's like a restaurant. A restaurant will always have a silent opening.
Yeah, we might do that. I think that's
and do a couple because what you're going to do is you're going to learn something from the first one.
Yeah.
And why not correct it for the second one rather than trying to correct it and figure out you didn't correct it for your first real one.
I know.
So, and they're going to be friends, and the musicians you're going to hire are going to be different setups, and they're going to be local, so you don't have to pay anybody. It's just volunteer time. And so don't be in a rush. We're talking about multiple nights. There's only about 3 or 4 musicians that I would do that with.
Yeah.
I would do it with Leftover Salmon.
Okay.
I would do it with Jackie Green. I would do it with Paul Thorne. I got to the point with Tommy where I did 4 nights.
Wow, that's a lot. That's
4 nights.
Thursday through Sunday or something?
No.
Oh, no, because you never did weekend
Sunday
shows.
through Wednesday.
That's right. That was another question I had for you. When did you decide at Sierra Nevada to not do shows on Friday and Saturday? Do all your shows Sunday, Monday, Tuesday?
From day one.
Was that you who made that decision?
No, that was Ken.
That was Ken.
That was a business philosophy.
Wow.
Ken, part of his genius was his sense of community. He's selling beer to all these places, and then go in competition with them.
Yeah.
Ken's a genius, and it became quite readily the profit that he made off that room was not worth the antagonizing of all these owners.
Interesting.
Because
and he knew that.
He knew that day one.
Yep.
And it really tied my hands a lot, and people would get mad at me. It was really appreciated by Chico business.
Yeah. Well, it's a very generous offering, I think.
Again, you have to be successful to be able to do that.
Right.
And most of the things that Ken does that aren't even noticed or maybe appreciated are little things that he does that no one really is aware of because he doesn't announce these things.
Yeah.
But they're the right thing to do.
Sure.
And that was one of the beauty of Ken was that he built his first brewery by hand. He was a poor college student. And he became a billionaire living in Chico.
Yeah, he's an inspiring
I'm
figure.
not sure there's many others.
No, yeah.
And he did it in a business that came out of Chico.
Yeah.
And when you think about that so he had a head for business, but I think one of the reasons why, there's a lot of big businesses in small towns that are not beloved. In fact, people hate them.
Right.
Ken is university beloved in this town. And I think I can say that unequivocally.
And at that, it's time for another break.
Okay.
You're listening to Studio 416 on FM 90.1 KZFR Chico, KZFR.org, and we'll be back in just a second. You're listening to Studio 416 on FM 90.1 KZFR Chico. We've got Dan Carter. I'm your host, along with my co-host Cameron Ford, and we're talking to Bob Littell, having a good old time.
We're talking about beverages. Obviously, the name of the game for you is to sell beer. And we were talking about the importance of wine sales from a music standpoint is that a lot of people don't drink beer.
Yeah.
I don't drink beer.
Yeah.
Susie doesn't drink beer, my lady. And so that will determine some people whether they come or not.
Yeah.
If a party of 5 has 2 shows they can go to, and one serves wine for that wine drinker and one doesn't.
Yeah.
The wine drinker is going to push hard for the wine locale.
We're planning on being able to offer both beer and wine very shortly. I'm hoping it happens in concert with the new space opening up.
One of the big advantages the big room had is you sat at a table.
Yeah.
Beer on table. Seated show here, beer on lap.
Yeah.
Or beer on floor. And when we went to take out seating for the really big shows, and not everybody had a place to sit, the next day, covered with wine spills, beer spills.
Yeah, that's problematic.
Nothing that you can do about it. What I would say is you must have floor staff that can pick up empty glasses periodically.
Sure.
Because if you've got, an hour into the show, if there might be 20 or 30 beer glasses just sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
And it's tough to get a refill, and that's the time to get a refill.
Yeah.
You know, just speaking from a restaurateur's point of view.
Yeah.
Because you're going to make it on beer sales. Because I don't know that you can charge that much at the door. You know,
50
you know,
is pretty small.
People in this town are a little spoiled.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was when I was bringing Jackie Green in, I was charging $20.
Yeah.
If you want to see Jackie Green at the women's club, just $62.
Wow. He's gone up quite a bit.
Well, I mean, but don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
He deserves it.
Sure, he's worked hard. He's an excellent
He
musician.
deserves it.
Yeah.
And I never complain about how much a person will ask.
Right.
You know, and one quick word of advice when talking money:
Sure.
never throw out the first figure.
Okay.
Let them.
Yeah.
Well, what are you willing to pay? No, you know, it varies so much. What are you hoping to make out of this?
Yeah. How do we make it
Because
worth your while? Yeah. And then,
you may say a number, and they go, oh, "Fine, that'll be great." They may have been thinking of a number $100 less.
right.
But you can always go up.
Right.
You can't go down.
Yeah.
And so, and don't be afraid to hang up the phone.
Yeah. Or not email them back.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
not send back an Instagram message.
Yeah, it's funny because in my days, I talked to managers on the
Block
phone.
them on Twitter.
You know, it gave me a chance to negotiate.
Sure.
To where when I got on the phone, I wanted that contract in the mail when I hung up.
Yeah.
I didn't want it because if I didn't get them that time, they may go somewhere else. I mean,
Yeah.
I lost bands to where I'd get a lot of the bands, and again, mine were bigger bands.
Yeah.
But they would have a clause in their contract that said, if we get a better paying gig within a week of yours, we can legally cancel.
Yeah.
If you cancel within a week, you have to pay full price.
Wow.
And I lost quite a few bands because
Other venues probably. booked
they
them.
instead of coming down, they found if we go to Idaho on the same night, we can make 3 times as much
Yeah.
because we're playing a 1,000-seat venue. And so that's why I like to talk to people on the phone.
Sure.
Because you get a feel for their perspective by their voice and what pushes their buttons and what doesn't.
Yeah.
But I had the disadvantage of being connected to Sierra Nevada because as soon as they heard the word Sierra Nevada, they thought Deep Pockets,
Oh, yeah.
not some
All of a
struggling
sudden,
club.
Yeah.
And so it's like they brought in this guy in a checkered suit
What
and
an
a stingy
interesting-
brim to talk to me on the phone.
I didn't. I didn't think about that. But
No.
yeah, as soon as people hear Sierra Nevada, they're like, okay, how do we pick Ken Grossman's pocket
Yeah,
here?
I mean, you know, with only 300 seats, and the
Yeah,
fact,
yeah.
and I explained to them my philosophy of charging.
Yeah.
I did not want someone to say, Bob, I'd really like to come to your show, but I can't afford it.
Yeah.
And so I really did. I mean, I had the Avid brothers. I was the first one to bring the Avid brothers to Chico.
Yeah.
Or actually Northern California.
Yeah.
I paid them $1,500.
Wow.
And their dad was with them. They came the second time and they were at $2,500.
Yeah, it keeps going up.
They're
Yeah,
now
right.
closing festivals on Saturday night for over 100,000.
Yeah, they're huge now.
They're festival headliners.
Yeah, I saw them
Top-
at the Greek Theater in Berkeley a long time ago.
The first
So they're
show they
huge.
did at the Big Room,
Yeah.
they just shredded it.
I bet. Seth and Scott Avett,
They
man,
just
those guys
went,
are.
and no one knew who they were.
Yeah.
And I still sold it out. And their guitar tech was stage right,
Yeah.
and the banjo player probably broke 3 or 4 strings.
Oh, wow.
But he would turn and he would throw the banjo across this, and the guy would catch it.
Yeah.
And then come back with a second one and hand it to him. But
Holy
because
mackerel.
they did so many, they were more, I don't know if they were more theatrical then, but they would do a lot of songs where they start off nice and quiet and pretty,
Yep.
and then slowly pick it up. And by the end, they're jumping all over the stage, just
Yep.
thrashing. And
believe
it
it.
was one of the best shows I ever did.
That's
And
awesome.
the same with Nickel Creek. I had Nickel Creek.
Yeah.
The Sunday night before their first album came out on Monday.
Yep.
That first album went to the thing. They exploded.
Yeah, you got them before they blew up. Yeah.
Less than $2,000, and now Nickel Creek, when they get together and tour, I mean, again, they're a $50,000, $75,000 band.
Sure.
And
I saw a show at the Big Room a long time ago that was Norm Macdonald.
Oh, yeah.
Which was actually really special. I remember specifically you coming out to give the announcement, And you said, and I think it was right after the 2008 economic crisis or something, because I remember you saying it's been a really tough couple of years. I felt like we needed a laugh here at the brewery. I remember you specifically saying that before Norm Macdonald.
Well, the funny thing about Norm, he was as dry in person, as a person as he was on TV. He parked his ride and his driver right in front of the big room or the gift shop. And I walked out to the car to see if there was anything he needed to carry. And he walks in, and it's freaking Norm Macdonald.
Yeah.
And he walks into the gift shop, and somebody recognizes him. And he proceeds to do 20 minutes in the gift shop. Mm-hmm. The word got out, and half the brewery was in the gift shop before he was done. But he went right into a comedy routine. And did 20 minutes.
The late great Norm Macdonald.
And it was that was one of the things, again, and one of the things I think you'll enjoy. Is getting to know these musicians.
Sure.
I mean, Daryl Scott is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Tommy is a friend of mine.
Right.
And on and on and on and on. The joy is when I would bring in someone like the Kruger brothers that no one knew who they were. Mm-hmm. You don't know who they are.
No.
Two brothers from Switzerland. Uwe and Jens, and then a bass player whose brother lived in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And that's why I got connected with him.
Yeah.
Jens is one of the 2 or 3 best banjo players in the world.
Oh, wow. They
were just incredible.
Cool.
And I got to know them, and when we went back to Merlefest in North Carolina, they were playing. Had dinner with them, and just one of the perks of doing this, I won't get into that story, but that's the relationship of getting to know these people as people, because I'm not, with fellow musicians, I'm not a gusher, because I respect what they do and how they do it and what they had to do to become that, but I'm not an autograph guy, that type of thing, but I like talking shop, and seeing the routines. These guys would come in after a huge drive, and while they're setting up, like Tim O'Brien would sit down on the drum riser and start playing. He'd just play until it was ready to do sound, and then he'd go in the green room and start playing. Then they go to have dinner, and then they come back and they play, and then they do a 2-hour set. And that's what they were like.
Yeah, always playing.
Always.
Yeah.
Bela Fleck told me the story. The reason he got his first divorce was that he spent way more time with his banjo than he did with his wife.
Oh, wow.
And his wife got tired of it. Because he'd wake up in the morning, pick up the banjo, and it would be in his lap until he went to bed at night.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do to reach that level of musicianship.
100%. Funny story, actually, you just mentioned that. We had a band from Portland play on Sunday called Johnny Franco. He's a Brazilian rocker who's from Portland, and he was at the end of his 2-week tour. They played our free show 3 to 5 on Sunday. It went well. Had said, bye, guys, have a good one, cleaned up after him, went home, was eating my dinner, and just kind of checking out Facebook. And then I see on Facebook Live that they played Om on the Range, which is a new restaurant downtown. And so he had done the show. He had done an entire tour. He had done the show at Secret Trail. He asked me where I should busk on a Sunday night. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. I mean, you can go downtown and just find a place if you want, but I'm not sure where you should busk on a Sunday night, especially when it was foggy, this past Sunday. I was like, you're probably going to strike out, but go downtown, maybe check out the El Rey Theater underneath there or something. That's got cool acoustics. So then but then I saw on Facebook Live he played Om on the Range, and he must have just walked in and said, hey, I'm from Portland. I'm a Brazilian rocker. I just played Secret Trail. Can I play? And they let him, and so I was like,
Yay,
okay.
Darby.
But that's the point, is that musicians who play like that, it's neat to get to know them, because they're hungry for it. Their thirst is unquenchable.
That is the most important factor in becoming a successful musician, is the desire to succeed rather than to be the best musician I could possibly be. Because you have to be driven.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of what these guys have been through. Well, Tommy Emmanuel, think about that. He ended up having heart trouble a while ago, but you look at his schedule. He played 310, 315 nights a year of one-night stands.
That's a lot.
Wow.
Play a gig, go to the motel, go to sleep, get up, have breakfast, either drive or go to the airport, go to sound check, to 310 out of 365 days.
That's a grind.
I mean, stretches of 50 days in a row.
Wow.
And his shows were just energetic beyond belief.
Yeah.
I mean, he worked. He never mailed it in.
No.
Yeah.
And
You always said we don't pay him to play, we pay him to travel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you pay them to
that
be
was
on
one
the
of
road.
In fact, that was one of the things that I really made a point of trying to do for opening acts, because I didn't book opening acts. When you saw an opening act, it's because the band brought them.
Yep.
Near the end, I mean, I billed Phil and Ryan in front of, in front of Darling Side and a few others. But I didn't do it because, again, I didn't want my shows to go too late. And if you did an opening act and said, we'll play 35, well, 35 minutes you're in the green room ready to come out to introduce, and they're going, now we'd like to do a medley of our favorite, and then a 35, 40-minute changeover.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, instead of 9:30, it's 10:30.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And so what I would do when I came out to introduce or say thank you to the opening act, I would make a point of saying, clapping's nice, they really like it, but if you like them and you want to help them, go buy a CD, because that's their gas money to the next gig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's money in their hand, because I didn't pay opening acts diddly. Well, diddly compared to big clubs. I mean, I would pay them $250, $350, which in Chico is yes. But
Right.
it.
Some extra cash in Chico.
Yeah, and so as I say, and to kind of not necessarily sum up, but get your mailing list as big as you can.
Yeah.
Make friends with people who have venues your size. Get to know them, because what they're going to do is, if they find someone really good,
They're going to tell
they're going to tell you. Because again, the promoter's main job is to make life as easy as possible for the musicians.
Right now, my main format of discovery is our Wednesday night open mic and the internet. You know what I mean? But you're right. I should check out some of these venues that are small and see what they're bringing.
How is that going?
The open mic's great. I've actually pulled a couple of people from the open mic and put them on the December schedule. So December 12th, we have a girl named Asia and a guy named Jim Flanagan, regulars at the open mic. Progressed, got to a point where I could email them and say, like, can you do an hour? And they said, yeah, absolutely. So
it's always good to check and see what kind of following they have.
Yeah.
And where they, because when you do type of things like that, where you're hoping to create some fan support and for sales,
right.
It's nice that they have a following.
Yeah.
But in Chico, there's now opening up. There's a lot of places for acoustic players to play. Now, what happens on your street when the Commons and you guys both have something going the same night?
It becomes a
Party Central?
A fantastic, festival. In fact, a lot of people will bounce back and
Yeah,
forth
no, I
depending
thought,
on the program.
I thought of that on Saturday night.
Oh yeah.
Because we got here early.
Yep.
Because I had assumed that they would draw fairly well because I was really familiar with them.
Yep.
But there was no activity there. But it dawned on me that, boy, if both of you had something big going.
They're open later, so I think that a lot of the people who finish up the show here end up over there to watch the show that they put on over there.
Is that clientele driven?
I think that it's just a geographic thing. We're the only two bars on the street. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where after you're done watching a show at Secret Trail, you don't want to go downtown if Commons is right there and there's a band playing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
no, that makes sense.
Yeah, so people bounce back and forth quite a bit.
So I want to remind our audience that you're listening to Studio 416 with Dan Carter and Cameron Ford. We're interviewing Bob Littell, and you're on FM 90.1, The Zephyr, KZFR Chico.
Community radio for the Sacramento Valley, the foothills and beyond.
You got it.
I've said that a few times.
Bob, let's talk a little more about you. First, how were you inspired to become a KZFR programmer? Rick
approached me as I was thinking about retiring, getting down to the end. He asked if I ever thought about doing a show, and I hadn't. And actually, when I stopped general managing the restaurant a year before I stopped doing the big room, and again, it's funny how many people thought I just did the big room, or that was a part-time job, comparatively speaking. But I came down, and I initially I have a recording of every show I've ever done, which is I have cupboards full of CDs, and I have tickets and posters from them too. Since I made the mistake when I was a youth of throwing away my Fillmore posters that I got when I went to the Fillmore that are now collector's items.
Yeah, dang it.
I must have thrown away
Bummer.
100 of them. But what I would do is I would bring in some CDs of shows, and John D would sit there and he would help me because they're CDs, but they're not cut by cut.
Yeah.
There's dead air, and so I needed help. And plus, I'd never touched a board or anything like that. So we did 3 or 4 shows that way, and it came to me that was not going to work. It was too stressful for John, so that's when I just and I was only doing a half an hour show, and so if I talked too much, which I've been known to do, I'd play 7 songs after reading the promos and the public service and all these things. 7 songs and I'm out. But then when David was having problems, they asked if I would do Woody and Friends. Going from that to a 3-hour show, I realized that I was just going to have to go to the roots Americana style. And since probably 80 to 90% of the music I played were people that played the big room.
Yeah.
I have a large. Plus, I have John D's hard drive. So I just walk in the morning. I have to get there. I have to get there at 8 because the gal that has the show in the morning has somewhere that she has to go. So I sit there from 8 to 9 before my show even starts. So I can program 90% of my show while I just sit there.
Oh, okay.
So I'll program the first 45 minutes. And then as music's playing, I'm looking to see what the mood is, moving things around. No, he asked if I would do Woody and Friends, and I consider that probably one of the more popular shows on KZFR.
Yeah.
And I took that as an honor.
Yeah, it's definitely one of our flagship.
Yeah, I took that as an honor that he would ask if I would do that show.
Yeah.
And
nice.
so now I've been doing it for 5 years.
5 years.
And everything's fine as long as nothing goes wrong. Because
You're lucky you don't sign on.
Well, there's no one else there. When I'm there, there's no one else there.
Yeah.
But I learned how to hit Radio Paradise.
There you go. Nice.
So
it's the last resort.
yeah, luckily I haven't had to do that yet, and I've been pretty lucky. But there's been some sweat-dripped mornings as things weren't working, and I'm a typical aged computer guy. As long as I'm doing stuff that I do over and over and over again, I'm faster than hell.
Yeah.
One button doesn't work,
Throws you off.
and I haven't a clue.
When it turns into problem solving, that's a problem.
Yeah, it really is. So it'll be interesting to see who you can turn Chico onto.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the joys that I had in that room, that I brought someone in for the first time.
Yeah.
The first time Jackie Green played it, the first time Paul Thorne. Mother Hips was already big.
Sure.
But bringing it with the local connections.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's super fun. I love it. And like we were talking about earlier, the beer is the economic engine, which means that I can take risks on bands that most venues probably can't. Like our free show offering has been really, really rewarding because we can pay the bands to play a free show. And it's not necessarily because we have to depend on them to draw. People are going to come for the beer. We're just providing an ambiance, So, but it's going to change. When we have this new space, there's going to be a new level.
It'll be interesting when you're sold out and you have people standing outside.
I know, and looking through the window.
That want to get in.
Yeah, I know.
And if it's a real quiet acoustic show, can you hear them
you might be
outside?
You might be able to hear it outside. So we're going to find all that out.
I was just thinking, it's a shame that you couldn't put one screen somewhere, a good-sized screen, with outside speakers.
And then you could watch it.
To where they could sit outside, another 100+ people.
I could probably figure that out.
Wow, that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
And they would have the feeling of being, because they'd be able to hear when the clapping,
Yep.
you'd be actually hear the clapping.
Sure.
And it might provide an intimacy, like in this area here, for
Sure.
another 50 or something like that.
Sure. Overflow room is
Yeah.
what they call it.
It,
yeah.
Let me tell you, the operation you're going to be running the second year that this is open
Yeah.
will be 100,000% different
I
than the
know.
operation you run when you start.
Year one is a lot different than year two.
You're going to learn, oh, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. That happens pretty regularly. Yeah. We're like, okay.
And what you're going to do is you're going to learn who because every band that played my room, their manager would call me at least the next day or the day after wanting to rebook. When can we get back on the schedule? When can we back on the schedule?
Right.
And that's when it came to mind. I had a philosophy. I don't rehire jerks.
Yeah.
I got to like them, both musically and as people.
Yeah.
And I had some bands that came in with an attitude, and it ticked me off.
You had a fun time with Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Billy Bob. That was a great, guy here. I can do Billy Bob for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
He was the biggest star because they had wardrobe. They wheeled racks of clothing in. They were in their nudie suits. And he was very serious about his music.
Sure.
He comes in and he wants, for dinner, he just wanted a piece of raw salmon.
Okay.
Period. And so Michael Isles, who's my executive chef, we went down, we got him some raw salmon, brought it in, and Michael hands it to him, and he goes, "Do you have any ketchup?"
Whoa. Interesting request.
But the thing with Billy Bob, everybody that basically came did not to come to see him as a musician. They came to see him as a star.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of those, you don't know what one looks like until you see one.
Sling blade.
I mean, but he's 5'6", 135, 140 pounds.
Wow.
Imagine him with Angelina Jolie. He's a little
He's
man.
a diminutive man.
Yeah, but he had a presence and an aura about him.
Wow.
And the first song, he comes out and he's do-do-do, and a woman who, to go to the bathroom, and when you're on stage right, you have to walk clear in front of the stage.
That's right.
And so he's halfway through the first song, and a woman gets up and walks, and it's like she's heading for the door.
Oh, no.
And he stops. "You're leaving already?" And he kind of confronts her in a semi-humorous way.
Semi-humorous.
Because she's going, "Well,
Not 100%
And then somebody said something, and then he stopped the show.
Mm-hmm.
He got off the stage with his microphone, walked among the crowd, and started talking to the crowd.
Oh, wow.
And they started asking him questions. He did a question, totally unscripted. If she hadn't been cut up, that wouldn't have happened. And he came off beautifully, just as you imagine a guy like that could.
Yeah.
And everyone who went to that show, I think there were people who went to that show thinking they were going to not like Billy Bob Thornton because he's kind of a hit or miss type of guy. Everybody who went to that show liked him.
Cool.
He was hard to deal with he wasn't hard to deal with. It was his support group.
Yeah.
That were very hard to deal with. They demanded a certain kind of water, which I had never even heard of. And again, I sent Michael Isles. He went grocery shopping trying to find it. He comes back with 2 6-packs of it. He finally found it in one place. They took it out to the bus and they gave it to their dog.
Seriously.
Seriously.
It's a specific type of water the dog needs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was all I could do. My executive chef
Yeah.
is out buying water for your dog.
For your dog.
Showbiz,
That's amazing.
what you're going to do. But all in all, that, and then the other show I did with a big-time movie star, the guy that started Newsroom and Dumber and Dumber.
Oh.
Daniels.
Jeff Daniels, yeah.
His son's band came.
Oh.
And Jeff is a musician, so him and his wife came in their mobile home.
Oh, wow.
And I got to spend the whole day with Jeff Daniels.
Hanging out with Jeff Daniels.
And talking about...
Jim Carrey.
Well, talking about that, but more the Newsroom. And Alan Sorkin was the writer of the Newsroom. And and an incredible writer. And just talking with him, sitting in the green room, talking with him and his wife. We probably talked for an hour and a half. Very intelligent man, very grounded.
Cool.
And he was on tour. The son had a bus, and they were in their mobile home following behind his son.
That's fun.
And they would join him on stage for half the show.
Another story about a parent of a musician arriving to hang out at the big room.
Yeah.
A lot of that. It's a family affair.
You're listening to Studio 416. This is Cameron Ford and Bob Littell and Dan Carter hosting, and we'll be right back after this. And hey, we're back. We've got Studio 416 with Cameron Ford, Dan Carter, and we're talking to Bob Littell. And I wanted to ask you about all of the times that you got up on the stage and played with people.
I could list you a list of people that I've played with.
How did that start? Like, did you start asking people if you
no,
could play? Or
no. Here's a cardinal rule.
Yeah.
If you're an experienced player, you never ask to sit in.
Yeah.
Never.
Right.
It's their show. Right. They're getting paid, and they don't know you. Mm-hmm. There is nothing scarier than the unknown harmonica player.
I know.
They can take crap to a whole new level. They think the solo starts when the song starts, and the solo ends when the song ends. Mm-hmm. And so, if you're in a band and someone comes up to ask if they can jam, the answer is no. Mm. No, unless you know who they are. Mm-hmm. And so of all the times, and I probably sat in with 50, 60 different groups, every single time they asked me. I never asked.
How'd you build a reputation of being somebody they could
being
trust?
On YouTube with Tommy didn't hurt.
Oh, that'll do it. Okay.
When you get 2.5 million hits.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube with Tommy.
And then a nationwide show that I'm on with Tommy.
That's right, the PBS show. Yeah.
And so all of them asked if I would. And the first time Tommy was here, and he asked me to play. And that happened because he had just played Denver, and my college roommate lives in Denver.
Okay.
And he went to the show, and he tracked Tommy down afterwards and said, when you're in Chico, because he knew he was coming to Chico, you got to ask Bobby to play. Trust me, he's a player. So just ask him to play. And so he does his sound check, which is just unbelievable. And he's walking down the little wheelchair ramp to the left of the stage, and he turns and goes, "Hey, Bobby, do you want to play a couple songs tonight?" I mean, this is out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. And I thought about it, and I sure, I'd be honored. Mm-hmm. And so we played that first night, and no rehearsal. No, he just told me, we're going to play this, and we're going to play this in these keys. And then he walked out. And then I didn't even know how he was going to bring me out or anything, and we nailed it. And it was quite obvious very quickly that we had a musical camaraderie. Looking at some of the tapes now, you listen, and they're singing on the second half of the song. We're playing in harmony. Yeah. And you would say, well, that must have taken a long time to learn.
Yeah, to sort of.
But it was off the top of the head from both of us.
Well, that's fun.
And the endings, and how to get the beginnings, because he'll begin a song by just ripping.
Right.
And then it drops to nowhere, and I'm supposed to come in on that beat.
Oh, okay.
And we've never rehearsed it.
Right.
And so that got it started, but God, I played really an honor to play with the people that I played with.
See, that's a neat thing, and that's what's unique about your Sierra Nevada career, is that I don't think a lot of people can say that they actually shared the stage with most of the acts that came through. That's pretty neat.
And that ranges from just killer bluegrass.
Yeah, that's neat.
Up-tempo, mind-boggling fast.
Yeah.
And then take it, Bob.
Your turn.
Yeah, but to blues, it was a great variety, and it was a real honor. I mean, again, it's being recognized by your professional peers on a national, almost with Tommy, a global scene. Thank you. I know, it's funny, because one of the songs you heard just then was, I think, Georgia, the old classic, and he told me, well, let's play Georgia, we're going to do it in C, and then he went out on stage, and that was all. I had never played Georgia. I knew I had about 40 minutes.
To figure it
I had to run over to the restaurant, to my computer, look it up,
Yeah.
and I had to learn the bridge right then, come running back with about 5 minutes, then he brought me out to play it.
That's high pressure.
And that was the first time I ever played it. And hopefully when you listened to it, you would have said that was with years of rehearsal. I mean, it laid out perfectly.
You be the judge, listener.
It just laid out perfectly. And that I've had the good fortune of being able to play with Tommy in quite a few venues other than Chico. I'm traveled with Sacramento and Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco, and these are 1,000-seat rooms and stuff like that. And so, and he always gets a hold of me. In fact, I had quadruple bypass about, it'll be 2 years now. And,
Wow, the David Letterman surgery. My goodness.
And Tommy called me on the phone to see how I was doing. He heard that I had surgery. And in fact, the first call he made, I wasn't home, so he left a message on my phone. Still got the message on my phone.
All right, that's awesome.
I mean, when Tommy Emmanuel calls you to wish you well,
Yeah.
you save that message. But no, we've become good friends, and I think he attributes me exposing him nationally. I will say that because of that exposure that I got playing with him. In fact, it's funny when I order stuff online from harmonica places. There's outlets and stuff, and there's all these message boards and stuff. When I order a harmonica and stuff like that, 90% of the time they'll email me back. Are you the Bob Littell that played?
Are you Dangerous Bob Littell with Tommy Emmanuel?
That shows you how much those things have been viewed. So
that's cool.
Other than that, I wish you luck. As I say, I'm more than willing to step in because I'm going to see things that you're not.
I'd love to have your opinion on it. I'm glad that we're friends. I'm glad you're able to, you're a regular here on our stage. So why not?
It'll be interesting, because you're going to have to either rent chairs or buy chairs.
Right.
And what you have to do is you have to put chairs up, but you have to leave an aisle too. Mm-hmm. And an aisle takes up a whole lot of room in a room that size, or else the person over here has to go, excuse me, all the way. And so it'd be nice to set up the room in advance.
Sure.
Get all that stuff out of the way.
We'll get you and Peter, to play, and we'll set it up how you guys think it should be set up, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, because if they're 3 deep at the bar, how far back does that go? Do your employees have room to be able to move? Mm-hmm. Because those are all, because I like to keep the lights really dim in the big room because I wanted the candles, and we had a really nice lighting system, so the stage just kind of glowed.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of different looks that you could get. So when it came down to a solo or something, we could really do what we call the God spot. So we're just right on their head. Yeah. And it was like, an angel or something like that. And what I started doing is, because we did release parties, maybe 3 or 4 release parties every year, and you understand the concept of release parties. I would hire local bands to play that. Yeah. That was their chance to play the big room stage. And when they played, I set the green room up just like, drinks and coffee and food and everything. So when they walked in, they felt like a national touring musician.
That must have been cool.
We gave them sound check. We gave them as much time as they wanted. Because they would feel self-conscious about taking too long. And I said, look, only you will fight for your sound. Yeah. And if you don't fight for it now, you're going to be fighting for it during the whole concert.
And you don't want that.
And I know this. I went to high school, competing high school with Don DeBono.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We're friends all the way back from high school.
Did you ever play Cabos?
I played Cabos a million times.
Okay, cool.
If it was a club in Chico, I played
there. Yeah. Right
I played. In fact, George Susan and I opened for Taj Mahal. That was one of the times. And I'm playing, we're doing, a duet. And I look over and there's Taj sitting just, where you can sit like stage right or left, behind the curtain where no one can see you. Yeah. And he's rocking along. Because Taj is a good harp player. Cool. And
It's been a great run.
Yeah. 21 years of running, first of all, just being a restaurant manager in Chico. Yeah. A manager has a shelf life of about 3 years. They're like a baseball coach. After about 3 years, people stop listening.
Yeah.
and they have to listen, or else you can't do your job.
Yeah.
And I was GM at La Hacienda for 17 years before I came to Sierra Nevada for 21 years in the restaurant business.
Wow.
So 38 years as a restaurant general manager in this town. I don't think there's anybody else that's done that.
Certainly not somebody who's never broken up a fight at Sierra Nevada. You know what I mean? Like, restaurant managers probably have to break up fights every once in a while.
I escorted people out of the restaurant
Yeah.
at Sierra Nevada, but nothing ever came to blows.
Okay.
And one time I escorted a very, very well-known lawyer and his wife out because they were right in the middle of the room and they were making asses of themselves.
Oh, no.
I think I'll neglect to mention who it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I went to the table and I took the man under the arm and stood him up. And as I walked him out, people clapped.
The whole room knew it was time to go.
Yeah, they he was ruining everybody's meal.
Yeah.
No, I've had a good run. If you can live in a town for as long as I have, and honestly say to yourself that I'm leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
How many people leave a legacy in their lifetime? It can be a legacy with 3 or 4 people that are friends who appreciate what you do.
Right.
But if I go shopping at Safeway, someone stops me and tells me about a show they went to.
That's pretty neat.
And it is pretty neat. And I'm hoping that they open the room again.
Yeah, me too.
But don't know.
I hope so. I love that room.
Well,
I really miss shows there.
It's unlike any other room. I mean, it was a dinner theater. How many dinner theaters?
Yeah.
There was Sierra Nevada, and then the Triple Door in Seattle. Mm-hmm. And those are the only 2, quote, dinner theaters to where you ate dinner in the same room as you saw the show and danced in that same room. Mm-hmm. It's a dying concept.
Yeah. It's true. You don't see very much of that.
No, and that was another thing. Starting my shows at 7:30 on a Monday night, and if it's sold out and it's no reserved seats, people knew they had to be in line by 6.
Yeah.
They get off work at 5. When do they get dinner?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
You gotta feed them.
And so I fed them.
Yeah.
And I fed them at a good price. Dinner $12.50.
Yep.
For the longest time, and that was for a complete dinner.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to leave a tip. And no tax. Mm-hmm. So I ate the tax too. We finally raised it to 15, and even then it was. you get a burger and a fries, it's $15. Mm-hmm. So, no, it's been a good run. I miss it, but I'm waiting for music to come full circle because then I could get out and play a lot more. That's what I'll do now.
All right, Bob, thanks for joining us on Studio 416.
Let me just say out to all the people that are listening, Secret Trail is doing Chico a really wonderful service, providing nice afternoon locales for unlike any other place in Chico. And they're making the beer. It's local. The money stays local.
Yeah, the beer's delicious.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, I'm sure Charlie, the head brewer, I'll relay that to him.
Yeah. Yep. All right, stay tuned for Swing City.
Yeah.
Coming up next on FM 90.1 KZFR Chico. Listener-supported community radio for the Sacramento Valley, the foothills, and beyond.